At She Can, we tell women's stories. We show how women got to where they are today to be role models for others. And I'm really happy to connect with Brenna Wallace today. Brenna, you are in Canada, right? You're the founder of a Lady with Lilies Society. That's an NGO that educates and empowers all to combat human trafficking. You're a human trafficking advocate, a keynote speaker, a survivor, an activist, and a global survivors affairs expert. Tell us in your own words more about your work.
Certainly, certainly. So I am autistic. I tell everybody that up front because having autism means that you're held back a lot by everybody around you. But I advocate for survivors and their families, and I love connecting with them. And I serve on Lilies. I know I said that wrong. I'm going to get in trouble for it later. Global Advisory Board is their Global Survivor Affairs expert. And how I got here, well, that is a very long story. um, but I will say that connecting survivors around the globe is one of the most rewarding things that you could possibly do with your life. I absolutely love it, and I love advocating for those who are voiceless, like myself, because we often are. So while to answer your first question fully, could you ask me the second question,
Of
and then I
course.
can answer it better?
No worries, Brenna. I'm thinking it would be really nice to hear details about your journey. So, how did you get to become an activist for human trafficking, working with this NGO, and really this being your purpose?
Absolutely. So I raised my daughter after she was assaulted by a adult man. And while I was raising her, I finally learned the words for what happened to me. And I was finally around people who would empower me to speak about it instead of just telling me that I was a waste of a life.
Hmm.
Because I've heard that since I was 10. It kind of gets drilled into you that you will never do anything with your life and you're just a waste of a life. But I'm a bit more defiant than that. You know, I've always been very defiant that I'm not going to just settle for people treating me like I'm an object
Yeah,
because, like that was a huge part of my childhood was I was an object.
yeah,
I was I wasn't allowed in the classroom, so I didn't have a steady background education, but I got into a program called the Elevate Academy,
yeah,
which is part of the Rebecca Bender initiative.
yeah.
And these women just super empowered me to go out there and be a speaker and do a case study on what happened to me and bring that to the global stage, which I did at the Kempe conference, which is based out of Colorado, I think. University of Colorado, yes. It's the Kempe conference to change child welfare. And it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying to be that vulnerable in front of the world,
Yeah,
basically, and say, like child welfare may be a lot more vulnerable to this. And we need to fix the cracks in the system
yeah,
because there are a lot of girls out there getting hurt really bad by these systems. So I addressed it and I just brought them the truth. And afterwards, an ambassador for the Sovereign Order of Malta
yeah,
told me that I humbled him. And he projected me further into the global stage by recommending me for an OSCE training, which I went and took. And I came back, and 5 survivors together decided to found a Lady with Lilies Society, 4 women and 1 man, or 1 man, sorry. And when we founded a Lady with Lilies Society, it was because there was literally nothing in our area to help these people get back on their feet.
mm,
So we started with a lot of advocacy work and education and advocating for other parents whose kids have been hurt because I've been through the court system on that end. I
yeah,
did it as a stepmother, which less than 1% of stepmothers make it to the trial, nevertheless still have a relationship with that kid in their 20s. So
mm,
I'm very, very happy with how I got with that. But after I finished training and with the founding of the society, like everything just started to move so fast where all of a sudden I'm being requested for the Toledo Summit, which I did 2 years in a row. And this last year, I am so proud of this. This is my greatest achievement ever. But I did a presentation at the 20th Annual Toledo Summit on familial disability exploitation. So the way that families exploit people with disabilities. And I used a very specific case out of the US as a case study for this.
Yeah.
And it was the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. And less than a week later, they announced that they were letting her out of prison 4 years early. So seeing my work cause an impact like that is huge, especially for somebody who was told that they were a waste of a life. And I hope I answered your question there.
Yes, Brenna, and I'm so grateful that you talked to us about your life authentically because you know and you have experienced that telling one story is very powerful because it supports and helps others on their journey, right? So, Brenna, I don't want to press you, but I would love to know. I would love for you to talk about your challenges in a little more detail and tell us how you overcame them because you have achieved so much already in this area. And I think that is really good for others to know who might be listening, experiencing some of the things that you have experienced and were able to turn them into your power rather than letting it define you the way that it happened.
Well, okay. When I was 24 years old, I was in a very bad relationship with a man who was exploiting me. And he used the child welfare system to deprive me of my children. And the only person who was in my corner when that happened was my grandmother.
Mm.
Her name was Frida. And growing up, this woman told us stories of World War II in Poland because she lived just outside of Warsaw when the war started. And she was like 6 years old. So she's just a little kid. But she would say things like, "Have you seen your birds today?" And all of a sudden, it's something that you have to do every day, where you have to go and you have to find 5 birds so you can tell grandma you've seen your birds today. And it gets you out of the house and up and moving. And she just had like these positive things for me, like um, giggle about it. If you're uncomfortable, giggle. It will unsettle the people who are making you uncomfortable and it will help you feel better. Because if you can laugh about it, you can live through it. And she also taught me when I was really young that if you're still breathing, life is carrying on. You have to get up and keep moving. You can't just lay down and die. You have to get up and keep moving. And you have to protect other people from what happened to you. If you don't talk about it, nobody will.
Yeah.
And I managed to escape my trafficker the following year, but I've still been punished for what he did by members of my community and members of my family. They treat me like I'm a terrible person because I was trafficked,
Mm.
because I fell for it. And how did you fall for it? Why did you do that? I don't know why. All I know is that some of those sayings, like that we all hear, like, "You made your bed, so sleep in it." Those kinds of sayings can trap women in violent situations because they get it in their head that they caused the situation, which
Yeah.
is entirely wrong.
Yeah.
But like my struggles have been like everything. um, I when I was in grade 5, I lived in Tabor, Alberta, Canada, and it was April 1999. So a week after Columbine, my Sunday school teacher was shot outside the room my sister was in while we were all at school.
Mm.
So getting past that fear of the building, I had to really learn to control my emotions, and I had to take on the mindset that tomorrow, you haven't made any mistakes yet tomorrow. So some days you just have to give up and go, "I'm going to try again tomorrow."
Yeah.
And tomorrow will be a good day. And if you can chant that mantra in your head, you can survive almost anything.
Brenna, thank you for that. I'm wondering now, after you've lived through all those experiences and have really turned them into something powerful that is helping others. What is your main motivator going forwards?
That no other person should ever have to live through what I did.
Yeah.
Nobody. And I will talk loudly and permanently about it because I don't want anybody else to have to go through it.
Yeah.
Being a girl with a disability and being treated like property, it conditions you for these people who really want to hurt you to come after you. So I don't want to see any more girls fall through that trap. I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
And every time I do, it breaks my heart. So no more. No more.
Brenna, and what would you say are the qualities that you have that have really served you through all of this?
Oddly enough, my Asperger's syndrome. um, Having autism, Asperger's syndrome, or autism spectrum disorder, you hyper focus and obsess on things. And that's one of my biggest strengths because I can gather a lot of information in a very short amount of time and all of it's verifiable and I bring a lot of research into every case that I interact with because I'm just so hyper focused on the people that I'm helping and making their lives better. And I would have to say my tenacity because it doesn't matter how many times you knock me down, I'm gonna keep coming.
Yeah.
um, and my resilience.
Yeah, that's obvious.
One of my greatest struggles, which I forgot to mention earlier, was when I went in to report my trafficking to police. I was confronted by a female officer who screamed at me that I was a liar and that it never happened. And it is completely earth-shattering to have somebody in law enforcement say that to you without even investigating, without even interviewing you. So I have had to learn that in order to get justice, you have to fight for it. You have to be willing to put in the time in the fight. So that's one of my other great struggles that I have made it through, but I think it's kind of a sideline to my story. It's kind of like this just kind of like steered my activism a little bit to make sure that police are listening to victims because that can be problematic with some
Yeah.
officers.
Yeah, I think that's still the case all over the world.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Brenna, I'm
Very much so.
wondering what top tips would you be able to give to someone who is in a situation of being trafficked right now? What would you tell them?
Don't wait for someone else to come rescue you. Defend yourself. By doing so, you are teaching yourself to love yourself. So if you love yourself, you will defend yourself. And if you defend yourself, somebody will help you. If you reach out for help to organizations in your community that specialize in anti-trafficking awareness and education and prevention and investigation, like these people will treat you with the dignity that you deserve.
Yeah,
And you should never be punished for what somebody else does to you.
yeah, yeah.
Don't accept it.
Thank you, Brenna. Yeah. Brenna, what role did you have any role models? I mean, your grandmother was definitely a role model. Who are the people who inspired and motivated you to get to this space?
First, my grandmothers, um, Frida Pipke from Warsaw, Poland, and Noreen Hansen from Shetland, England. She actually worked at the Spitfire factory in Shetland. It was her first job. And when she told me the stories about it was all about how she didn't think that she could build planes, but then she found out that she could. So if you don't go out and try, how do you know what you can or can't do?
Hmm, exactly.
And my other one is Eva Moses Core. I loved Eva Moses Core. She was an amazing woman. And She was really inspiring how fearless she was. And I listened to one of her um she recorded herself when she went back to the camp for the first time. And the way that she talked about it really inspired me that, if you're not going to talk about the terrible things that happen, you can't change it.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
world will forget if they don't hear it. So just do
Yeah.
it.
That's very powerful of what you just said and very important. Brenna, so what is in store for you? What are your dreams, your goals, your plans for the next years?
Well, my next year's is I'm launching the BWII, the Brenna Wallace International Initiative. And we are going to do awareness and education in human trafficking on a global scale, as well as survivor referral to resources. So we're setting it up that survivors can reach out to us, victims can reach out to us, and we can connect them to the nearest person to them who can help. I also want to be on ISTAC, the International Survivors of Trafficking Advisory Council. Um, I have met a few members of the first ISTAC, including Chandra Waruntu. She's from New York City. She operates a NGO called Mentari. She's an amazing woman. She has a cookbook out. Love her to pieces. And I want to go out and I want to give people with disabilities a voice in spaces where we've never had one before.
Yeah.
I'm attending UN ODC constructive dialogues as the first autistic survivor ever. So it's really exciting to be on that leading edge and the leading edge of awareness and investigations. So that's what's up for me. It's just more.
I love it, Brenna. Yes, and I am so grateful for you to take the time and to tell your story, and we're cheering you on. And I'm so grateful for you to be here today.
Thank you so much for having me. In closing, I'd like to make a comment to all the little autistic girls out there. You are brilliant. Don't let people tell you otherwise. It doesn't matter that you're a little weird. That's okay. Being a little weird is completely acceptable.
Yeah.
Um, Embrace what makes you unique, which is your brightness and your hope and your ability to think outside the box, because people love our ability to think outside the box. So just go out, be great, and you can do it. And
Thank you
if you
so
ever need a reminder, if you ever need a reminder of how important you are, you take a piece of paper and you write on it, I am, and then your name. So mine says, I am Brenna Wallace. And then when I'm having a down day and I don't know what to do and I feel lost, I open that page and I look at it and it reminds me of who I am and what I have done. So just a tip for girls who might be going through some struggles, just be you. Love you all.